On the 26th of September 1823, 1,000 people gathered here on Roborough Down for a breakfast to celebrate the opening of the Plymouth and Dartmoor Railway. This building was then a stable used by the horses that pulled the trains on the new line. After the breakfast, guests were carried down to Plymouth by train. This granite post tells us we're 12 miles from the terminus of the line at Sutton Harbour. In 1818, the local MP, Thomas Tyrwhitt, wanted to regenerate Dartmoor, turning it into good farming land. To do this, he needed lime and sand as fertiliser, together with timber and coal. And his idea was to build a railway and bring goods in and ship out granite, peat, minerals and agricultural produce. The Plymouth and Dartmoor Railway, or tramway as some people called it, was to run around 25 miles from Princetown, following Drake's Leat for much of the way. Running south from here, the line passed into Plimbridge Woods. The route runs on a gentle gradient downhill, through cuttings and around some sharp bends. Construction had started in 1819. The railway was made of cast iron rails, 3 to 4 feet long, and made to overlap at the joints. They rested on cast iron chairs, sitting on stone sleepers. Here you can see where the chairs were fixed to the sleepers. We're now at milepost number 4, and the arrangement of the sleepers is very clear here. The rails were 4 foot 6 inches apart. This is where the railway crossed Plimbridge Road. You can still see the original stone abutments on the bridge. A little further along and the line emerges onto the lane and into a tunnel, which was 620 feet long, 9 foot 6 inches high and 8 foot 6 inches wide. During the Second World War it was used as an air raid shelter and to store munitions. The house next door still has an appropriate name. The tunnel then emerges in the Forder Valley Nature Reserve. In 1821, the original plans for the line were redrafted to include the tunnels so that the gradients were more manageable. Shares to raise the £30,000 needed to build it had already gone on sale 2 years earlier. From the beginning, the idea was that anyone could use the railway, paying a toll for the goods carried. But a majority of the traffic was granite, quarried near Princetown, and used initially to build the new Plymouth breakwater. In fact, the quarry owners, Johnson Brothers, put up some of the money to build the line and took on some of the debts to secure preferential rates. By the 1840s, the P&D was effectively Johnson Brothers' private railway. The rolling stock was wooden wagons on cast-iron wheels. Trains were slowed when freewheeling downhill by cast-iron brakes with wooden levers. Horses pulled the trains back uphill. From here on, there's not much left of the railway. From Forder Valley, the route ran through this area, which is now a retail park. In fact, the line went right through the middle of B&M. It then ran along the embankment to the west of the River Plym, on land now occupied by the A374. On the right here is the main Exeter to Plymouth Railway, opened by the South Devon Railway in 1848. The Plymouth and Dartmoor eventually agreed to cross it on the level here at Lara, on the way to the terminus at Sutton Harbour. Originally, the P&D terminated on the River Plym, but loading and unloading was difficult due to tides. In 1851, the South Devon took over the P&D's tracks along here, and this Premier Inn now stands where the lines once terminated. They were dual gauge, so both companies could use them, even though the wagon wheels were different distances apart. You can still see the rails on Johnson's Quay, named after the quarrying brothers. Returning to the site of that celebratory breakfast and the opening of the line in 1823, we can see that much work has been done by volunteers over the last decade to restore the sleepers along the route, especially as we approach Yelverton. The P&D was never the financial success its early backers had hoped for. It never boosted agricultural production, but it did carry granite to the coast and in later years china clay from Lee Moor, initially along a branch from Plympton built in 1833 and later on a dedicated line. Here in the centre of Yelverton there are a few granite sleepers visible in the grass, where there was a siding opposite the Rock Inn. From here the line wound its way up across the moor to King Tor. It was finally finished in December 1826 when the King Tor to Princetown section was built, the line terminating in the little garden at the rear of the Railway Inn. The Plymouth and Dartmoor Railway Company was restructured and refinanced in the 1860s. The tracks were relaid in 1874, but a few years later the Princetown end was sold for the Yelverton to Princetown branch line for £22,000, the company regarding this section as a dead loss. The standard gauge branch opened in 1883. It followed the route of the tramway, like here at Borough Tor, where there was a halt opened in 1924. But it deviated from the original route here at Dowsland. The Plymouth and Dartmoor Railway was the product of many compromises and agreements. One such was made with Lord Morley and saw the construction of a branch line from his slate quarry at Cannes just north of Plym Bridge. The line of the track opened in 1829 and some of the sleepers can still be seen today. In the 1850s, the South Devon and Tavistock Railway was proposed. Work started in 1854, having purchased the Cannes Quarry branch from Lord Morley to provide land for the line. In the south, the Plymouth and Dartmoor joined up with the London and South Western to develop a network of lines around Catwater. And the London and South Western tried to use the P&D as cover to try to move into the South Hams in contravention of an agreement with the Great Western, but this move failed. In 1916, the rails from the P&D were lifted and sold to make munitions for the First World War, and because of its links with the London and South Western, the company, or what was left of it, became part of the Southern Railway in the 1923 grouping.